bakuran o kalsada, ito ang nilalaro nila, ang libangan ng maraming batang Pinoy.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Riza Lorenzana, Chair of Ako Para sa Bata 2020. The 12th Ako Para sa Bata is presented by the Child Protection Network Foundation and UNICEF. Our theme this year is Care of the Child Against Violence in the Time of Disease. If you are not yet following us, please do follow the Ako Para sa Bata social media accounts. Tag or mention Ako Para sa Bata and make sure to include the hashtag COVID-APSB 2020 in your posts. So again, it's hashtag COVID-APSB 2020. Today is another day of learning. I am happy to introduce our guest host for today's session on online life, making it work for you. So we have all seen her on TV. She is a host and writer of GMA Network Incorporated, an assistant professor at the University of the Philippines College of Mass Communication, and founder of Project Malasakit Foundation, an NGO for child laborers and indigenous people communities. Our Ako Para sa Bata community, let us give a warm welcome to Ms. Cara Patria David Cancio. Over to you, Ms. Cara.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. And thank you very much, Dr. Risa, for that introduction. Good morning! Sa ngalan ng Child Protection Network Foundation at ng UNICEF, kami po ay lubos na nagpapasalamat sa inyong patuloy na pagsuporta. Tandaan po natin, ako, tayo, para sa bata. Ngayong may pandemya, maraming nawalan ng trabaho, pero naniniwala ako na tayong mga Pilipino talagang very resilient tayo. We are a resilient people. Survivors tayo di ba? Kahit anong pagsubok, hinahanapin natin yan ng bright side or hinahanapan natin yan ng silver lining. And true enough, itong pandemya, bagamat marami sa atin ng nalungkot at tumaas yung anxiety at stress level, nagbukas din itong pandemyang ito ng maraming opportunities para sa ating lahat. Agree? 'Di ba? Laban lang ng laban. Tayo mga Pilipino kasi, sabi ko nga, we are survivors. Nakakaisip tayo kaagad ng iba't ibang mga bagay na pwedeng pagkaabalahan, a new skill, mga activities na pwedeng gawin para kahit papano matanggal natin yung ating stress, magkaroon tayo ng opportunity na kumita at mapalawak pa natin yung ating kamalayan or yung ating mindset, di ba? So, this is the 14th webinar ng Ako Para sa Bata 2020. Siguro alam nyo na yung Ako Para sa Bata, this is a continuing education for individuals and professionals in the front line of Child Protection Network. Sabi nga, di ba, we should never stop learning. So, bawat webinar na inyong ma-attendan, meron kayo siguradong mapupulot na bagong kaalaman. Yung 12th Ako Para sa Bata, pansin naman nating lahat, online na ngayon ito. So marami tayong mga hinandang iba't ibang mga webinars. It's a series of webinars to cater to the current needs of the child protection frontliners. At ang tema po natin para sa taong ito na online po ang ating Ako Para sa Bata is hashtag COVID-APSB 2020. At may acronym po to. Ang ibig sabihin po, nung COVID ay Care of the Child Against Violence in the Time of Disease. In the previous years, the proceeds of Ako Para sa Bata conferences contributed to the establishment of more Women and Children Protection Units or WCPUs sa mga government hospitals na nagpo-provide ng direct service sa mga abused children at saka mga children at risk. The Ako Para sa Bata 2020 webinars is being presented to us by the Child Protection Network Foundation and the UNICEF. Free of charge po ito, walang bayad. Service po ito sa mga WCPU members and the entire Ako Para sa Bata community. So, sana po mag-enjoy po kayo dito sa webinar na inyong mapapanood ngayon. Kasi talagang kailangan na nating mag-shift to online at alam mo naman hindi lahat tayo ay mga techie katulad ko, medyo may pagka-Jurassic ang aking knowledge pagdating sa internet at saka online live. So talagang makinig po kayo kasi marami po kayong matututunan. Sabay-sabay po tayong matuto about online life and making it work for you. Ayan, naka-flash po sa inyong screens ngayon yung ating lineup. So, meron po tayong invited na online business, yung nag-start ng kanilang online, meron silang online business platform, meron tayong consumer protection tungkol sa mga internet transaction, meron tayong guest dito galing sa DTI kasi alam mo naman minsan may mga hindi tayo alam na baka mamaya masa-scam na pala tayo. We also have someone from who's an expert in deterring cybercrime in the online world. Tapos mamaya magkakaroon tayo ng open forum. So this is a 1.5 hour session. Kung meron po kayong questions para sa ating speakers, just type them in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screens. If you are here on Zoom. For those watching on Facebook Live, please type your questions in the comment section. Kagaya nga ng nabanggit ko kanina, maraming nagbago ngayong taon. Yung iba sa atin nahilig sa paghahalaman at naging plantito at plantita. Wala akong green thumb, hindi ako nahilig sa paghahalaman. Pero nahilig ako sa pagluluto at na-level up ko ang aking cooking skills nitong pandemic. Merong mga nagbe-bake, merong talagang nagkaroon ng balik alindog program, weight loss program, nahilig sa pag-exercise at marami pang ibang mga pinagkakaabalahan. Some people even tried to learn a new language, 'di ba? Merong mga online classes din, 'di ba? So iba-iba yung pinagkakaabalahan natin at marami sa atin nagbe-bake tapos naghahanap ng bagong pagkakakitaan. Hindi lang online consumers ang dumami, marami rin ang naging online sellers. And this is just fitting kasi yung una nating guest, nako, sa mga nanonood ngayon na gustong magsimula ng kanilang online business, swerte po kayo kasi meron tayong guest ngayon na pwede tayong bigyan ng insight tungkol sa gaano nga ba kahirap, kadali, or ka-exciting ang pagbubukas ng isang online business. Ang una nating guest ay isang marketing director. He specializes in building brands, marketing and communication strategies, as well as digital and guerrilla marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have with us the marketing director of Kitchen City or Artemis Plus Express Incorporated, Mr. Ace Azaraga. Hi, Ace!
Hi, good morning, Miss Cara, and
Hoy,
good morning, viewers.
alam ko busy ka. Thank you pinaunlakan mo
Yeah.
kami ngayong umagang ito.
Thank you, then, for inviting me. Actually, it's an honor for me to be one of your guest speaker in this program.
So, Ace, you are connected with Kitchen City. Nagbebenta kayo
Yes.
ng mga frozen meals, tama ba?
Frozen meals, yes.
Naku, kayo
Yes,
ang
ma'am.
lifesaver ng mga hindi marunong magluto. Kasi,
Yeah.
iinitin nila.
Actually, yung plano kasi namin dyan, for those, especially sa condo or sa mga bahay, na to replace your cook nila or yung chef nila or anyone na hindi marunong magluto, kami na magluluto for them.
So anong mga klaseng mga pagkain to?
Majority yan mga Filipino dishes.
Nice.
Parang siya, homemade, home cooked meals.
So mga tipong adobo,
Caldereta, kare-kare, sisig.
Ang sarap. Okay. Pero yung Kitchen City, is Kitchen City already in business even before the pandemic or nag-start lang kayo nung pandemic na?
Kitchen City started na as a food concessionaire sa mga corporations, sa mga hospital, sa mga schools.
So parang
basically,
catering kayo?
catering, tsaka we handle mga cafeteria. So, more cafeteria management, canteen management. Kasi may mga buildings, may mga offices na may mga canteens, sa amin pinapahawak. And then may mga schools din na may mga canteens, kami yung kami nagme-manage. So we provide the chef, we provide the cook, we provide the manpower inside the canteen. And then sa hospital then we handle the dietary department. So kami
Okay.
rin nagpapakain sa mga pasyente.
Okay, so paano nung nangyari yung pandemic? I'm sure nandyan pa rin yung mga hospitals, 'di ba, which you cater to.
Yes.
But what about the schools? Wala nang mga cafeteria sa schools kasi online class na. How did
Yeah.
the pandemic affect you? I mean, your business?
Actually, it really affect us malaki kasi majority of our outlets are closed
Mm,
because, di ba, parang the government required them to work from home, and then schools closed, offices are closed, except for the hospitals. Hospitals is still open, and BPOs are closed also. So, yun nga, yun, before the pandemic happens, before the COVID-19 entered the Philippines, we closely monitoring what's happening in the Wuhan. So from there, the management decided to come up a new brand na
mm,
just in case na lumaki siya, pumasok sa Philippines,
mm,
and mag-close din yung economy niya,
mm,
ready na kami. So we decided to come up with the frozen meals.
mm.
So timely siya, actually ginawa siya. So parang kasi we're food eh. So it's
Yeah.
essential. So
Yeah.
essential business kami. So during that time, most probably hindi kami papasara kasi kailangan namin mag-provide ng food to everyone. So we come up with frozen meals.
Pero mahirap ba mag-shift from like a catering business that you're used to face tapos biglang ngayon online?
Actually, we thought it's hard, pero kailangan namin kailangan na namin siya gawin eh. Kasi some of the outlets are closed. The problem is yung mga employee namin, wala nang work. So we need to them para i-shift sa frozen meals. So yung may mga employee na walang trabaho kasi it's the close and meron naman motor, we hired them na kailan lang mag-deliver for us.
Okay.
So we come up our own fleet of delivery. So, ano din yung mga current employee namin. So, from shifting, we thought it's hard, pero hindi naman pala. Madali lang din pala siya. I mean,
Ah,
kasi everyone was, online na rin eh. So, we took that opportunity. We went to the Facebook, we come up our own website. So,
okay, okay, okay. So
kasi,
kung kunyari ako, gusto kong halimbawa, magaling ako gumawa kunyari lang ng ube cheese pandesal. Hindi po talaga ako magaling magluto ng ube cheese
yeah,
pandesal, guys. Pero just in case, kunyari marunong ako gumawa ng ube cheese pandesal and I want to start my own online delivery business. I mean, online food business. Ano ang
mm.
unang-una kong dapat gawin? Do I make a Facebook page? Do I make a website? Do I call my friends?
Actually,
What do I
for
do?
that, if you're just starting naman, you can use the Facebook eh. Actually, yung
Okay.
Facebook is sobrang powerful.
Hmm,
There's a study na 73 million Filipinos are on social media and 85% are has a Facebook account. So, parang yun nga, it's an opportunity na rin naman eh. So, once you have a Facebook, all you have to do is market that Facebook page of yours. And kung masarap yung pagkain mo, babalik at babalikan. You create loyal customer. So, and in terms of delivery naman, if you don't have a fleet, there's a Grab delivery. There are
yeah,
other third-party delivery na you can hire. Na usually what they do kasi, um, yung expense shoulder ng buyer, ng
correct,
customer.
correct, correct, correct. So, Facebook pala ang pinaka-effective na platform para makapagbenta.
Yes. Facebook, and eventually kung malaki ka na and you have sobrang dami ng mga items na benta, you come up a website.
Ah, so dapat
Website is
muna.
sobrang useful siya. Parang it's your online store. So doon na pipili, doon na bibili, doon na rin magbabayad at the same time.
Oh, okay. Pero how do you compete with others? Kasi ang daming gumagawa ng food business ngayon.
Yeah, true. We do innovation eh. So
Mm,
that's why every week we come up a new item, a new
mm,
product. And
mm.
then everything, the packaging, the food,
Mm.
parang we innovate. and we make sure that our food is safe, and we make sure our food is delicious. You create, what important is you create loyal customer, repeat customer. Ayan yung ayan yun, regardless kung meron lumabas ng competitor, kung natuwa na sa product mo, nasarapan,
Mm-mm.
ikaw at babalikan. Ayun ang
Ah,
pinaka-importante. So,
napan
importante is the product.
napansin ko rin is parang nauuso ngayon yung kukuha ka ng celebrity tapos papatikim mo sa kanya yung
Yeah.
pagkain. Kasi minsan ako nabibigyan din ako niyan. May mga iba hindi masyado masarap. Pero meron iba talaga masarap. Ano, effective ba talaga yun? Yung when you give to
Effective din
someone?
actually yung mga endorsement.
Talaga?
Kasi yung mga endorsement, kasi may yung mga endorser kasi they have their followers eh.
Mm.
So, usually yung mga followers nakikinig sa endorser, doon sa person following, doon sa celebrity or any parang influencer.
Oo.
So, parang pinagkakatiwalaan nila. Ito yung source nila na information. So, if
Oo.
that endorser endorse your product, uh, most likely na yung mga followers niya will buy that product.
Oo.
So,
Or kung hindi
yung mga
man or kung hindi man buy that product, at least parang may awareness
there's an
sila.
exposure.
'Di
Yeah,
ba?
awareness and exposure. Yes, true.
So
Uh-uh.
para siyang yung followers nung influencer or nung celebrity na yon parang magiging followers niyo na rin eventually.
Yes.
Ah,
Opo. Totoo yan.
ah,
Ganun yan.
okay. Pero I'm sure kailangan mo rin magkaroon ng mga permit ba diyan pag nag-start ka ng online business?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah. Uh,
create Facebook page?
Actually, what for the kasi we're we're registered business under the
Mm,
name of Artemis Plus Express. So,
mm.
as you're registered naman, you can we existing business na siya. So we just added a new brand, which is the frozen meals. It's an online business where
Hmm,
we're just using our existing permit and registration.
oo. So, alam naman natin ngayon online na yung mga transactions, 'di ba? Tapos,
Yes.
ay nako, ang dami-daming mga scam ngayon. Paano ko kunyari if you're
Mm-mm.
an online business, if you're an online seller or an online business, how do you protect yourself against yung mga ganitong klaseng scams? Kasi, 'di ba nabalitaan natin
True.
yan, yung minsan o-order tapos biglang hindi babayaran, 'di ba may mga gano'n?
Yes, totoo yan. So, for us kasi, we have two kinds of payment. One is online payment, one is
Mm,
cash on delivery.
mm,
We encourage our customer na pay online. So,
mm.
yan, one way of parang discouraging yung mga scammer na punta ka sa website mo or sa online business mo. Kasi you are required to pay online. So, may mga businesses na, yun nga, you have to pay first before it deliver. So,
Ah,
yan
okey.
ay yung one of the safest way na para hindi ka ma-scam. Yeah,
Oo.
you only deliver once paid. Then we have our cash on delivery. So
O
our own cash on delivery kasi nire-require naman kasi may mga customer na hindi naman techy, sabihin natin. So they don't know how to pay online. So
oo.
we allow cash on delivery. So we have our own customer service to check, parang background check natin. So if
Ah,
naman siya, kung parati naman siya mo order, so hindi naman
alam
namin bina-background check. So yeah, we get their number, we call them, we ask question to make sure na legit siya buyer. So
oo,
especially
kaya
right now kasi ang hirap may mga
oo,
scammer talaga na hindi
totoo.
mo maiiwasan.
Totoo. Kaya kayo diyan yung mga nakikinig sa atin ngayon kapag kunyari medyo makulit yung kausap ninyo, umo-order ka lang ta's ang daming tinatanong anong landmark, tabi ng bahay mo, yung mga ganyan, anong kulay ng gate ninyo, yung mga ganyan. Tinatanong po nila yan sa inyo kasi they just wanna make sure that you're a legit customer. Kasi may mga iba talaga nanloloko o order tapos hindi magbabayad or hindi pala nag-e-exist yung address. Alright, okay. So Ace, ngayon ba in terms of revenue, um, mas mas malaki ba ang kita sa online or you'd rather bumalik pa rin doon sa dati?
Actually, kasi our main business kasi 'di ba cafeteria management. Actually,
Mm,
we will still continue our cafeteria management once na nag-open yung
hmm,
mga offices, mga school.
mm,
The online business is actually currently para ay nag-replace sa loss ng
mm.
revenue dun sa namin cafeteria business. We will still continue this online business kasi we have this parang ito na yung parang future ng ng market sa Philippines
Oo.
online business. Parang because of this pandemic, nasanay ng mga tao to
Mm.
purchase their to
Mm.
purchase to do their transaction online.
Ah,
So we will just continue this business, and I
okay.
think it will not die. It will just grow.
Okay, okay. Uy, naku, may mga nagko-comment dito. Sabi regular customers daw sila ng Kitchen City. Masarap daw yung
Thank you.
pork estofado. Naku, dapat umorder ako niyan. Pero dagdagan nyo naman daw ng gulay yung mga frozen meals ninyo.
Yeah. May mga naman kami, may mga vegetable and frozen meals.
Oo,
So,
naku.
yeah. Kasi may mga vegetables naman na hindi nakaka-survive sa mga
Oo,
pag ginawa siyang
pag-frozen hindi
frozen
na masarap.
So,
Mm,
nasisira.
totoo yan, totoo
So, we
yan.
have our own we have our own R&D team naman and our own professional chef to make sure na quality yung binibigay namin and it's delicious. And especially, we always make sure na safe yung food na kinakain nila. Ayun ang pinaka-importante.
Eh, basta tandaan nyo na lang nagde-deliver sila sa mga ospital. Siguro naman safe yun, di ba?
Yes.
Naku, Ace,
But,
thank you very much.
thank you
Do you
also.
have a message to all our participants right now na nakikinig? Yung iba sa kanila loyal consumers ninyo. Ako o-order
Yeah.
na nga ako, parang gusto ko yung estofado eh.
For the viewers, if you want to do online business, hindi siya naman ganun kadali. So there are lots of parang if you want to come up a website, may mga online e-commerce website solution na madali lang siya gamitin, hindi siya mahirap. We thought developing a website would be hard, but because of like the Shopify, parang may mga templates siya based on the product and personality ng brand na gusto niyo. So sa Shopify, tutulungan naman kayo kung paano come up own your website. So right now, take advantage of what's happening right now, and it's an online business. It's growing, and I think this is the future of our economy.
Nako, thank you very much,
Thank
Ace.
you.
Guys, kung meron pa kayong tanong kay Ace, he will be joining us again mamaya in the open forum. So, or if you have questions for him, just type it on the chat box or on the comment section. Thank you very much, Ace.
Thank
Nako,
you.
maraming salamat. Thank you. Nako, mga
Thank you,
kapuso,
Rian.
talaga namang napakarami ng nagsulputan ng mga online businesses. I'm sure you're all familiar dito sa mga online businesses na ito. Pero yun nga, 'di ba, bilang consumer, paano nga ba natin malalaman if the online seller is legitimate? Ako kasi yung ginagawa ko, tinitingnan ko lang yung comment section, pero baka mamaya sila-sila rin naman yung nandun sa comment section, di ba? So, paano nga ba natin malalaman kung lehitimo yung online seller na ating kausap at paano natin mapoprotektahan ng ating sarili dito sa sa pagbili natin, pag-shop natin online? Joining us today is the Undersecretary for Consumer Protection Group ng Department of Trade and Industry. So, she is a lawyer by profession,
Thank you.
and she worked at increasing consumer awareness of their rights, as well as their responsibilities, and strengthen the consumer protection initiatives of the Department of Industry, Trade and Industry, or DTI. She has bridged government with the private sector over the years, especially during this time of natural emergency. To talk about consumer protection in the internet transactions, let us all welcome Undersecretary Attorney Ruth Castello.
Oh, hi, Kara. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. Maraming
Naku,
salamat sa pag-imbita.
excited na po kaming makinig po sa inyong lecture, ma'am, kasi may mga iba sa amin na biktima na ng mga online seller, merong mga iba parang pangit naman pala yung produktong na-deliver. Naku, consumer protection is so very important in this time of pandemic. Ngayong we're embracing the new normal. So, take it away, ma'am. We're all ears sa inyo pong lecture.
Okay, thank you, Kara. Igsian ko lang, it's supposed to be a little bit medyo lengthy, but I'll make it fast and concise para malinaw lang sa lahat. So again, good morning everyone. Thank you to Ako Bata Foundation for Ako Para sa Bata Foundation for inviting me here. Let me just tell you that during the height of the pandemic, yung questions kanina, hindi ba, na before the pandemic, merong mga once a month lang nagtatransact online. Merong halos hindi pa, and then now during the pandemic we will see the increase, very significant yung rise talaga ng internet transactions natin these days. So I will begin. In the second slide, you will see that the Consumer Act specifies that consumers need to be protected, the general welfare should be enhanced, and we also need to establish standards to for the conduct of business and industry. Please take note that the Consumer Act does not distinguish between a brick and mortar store, that is what we call the offline stores, and the internet stores or the online stores. So no distinction siya. That means all the provisions of the Consumer Act apply also whether it's offline or online yung transaction natin. In the third slide, you will see, okay, so you will see in the third slide that we also cater to e-commerce because the Consumer Act nga does not distinguish between offline and online transactions. So diretso tayo, we apply this also to e-commerce. E-commerce meaning the internet use, electronic commerce. We have existing laws, but we also have right now, Congress is pushing yung Internet Transactions Act so that consumers in the Philippines relating to e-commerce will be very well protected. Also, we need to develop the e-commerce industry in the Philippines because this is the new normal. It has become our normal already. Hindi na nga siya new normal. It's normal now for us to do internet transactions, get goods and services via the internet. In the next slide, you will see actually, part of the consumer protection that we need to do is watching out for sellers. Hindi lang basta ordinary seller, kailangan legitimate seller siya, registered, may mga rehistro or mga permitting coming from government agencies. Yung requirement natin for registration of businesses, including online businesses, is not new. This is nothing new. We had a revenue memorandum circular from the BIR 2013 pa. And then in the next slide, you will see also 60-2020. So inulit pa ng BIR yung reminder that all online businesses need to be registered with them. But let us remember also that the National Internal Revenue Code 1997, promulgated in 1997, already said that all businesses need to be registered with them. So itong mga memorandum circular in 2013 and now 2020 is just a reminder because the NIRC, the National Internal Revenue Code, also does not distinguish between an online and an offline business. So meaning all businesses need to be registered with them. Maraming sellers that will be afraid now because of taxes, or maraming takot sa BIR because they will collect taxes or impose taxes on the business. But the train law, if you will remember, promulgated and made effective in January of 2018, already said that the first 250,000 pesos of your income will be exempt from income tax. So the small online sellers that we have earning below 250,000 pesos a year will not have to pay income tax from the BIR. But you can still use your registration. You have it, at least you legitimize your business. Hindi tayo forever colorum or forever underground, forever hiding from the BIR. At least if we're doing online businesses, let's have them registered to be sure. We also encourage everyone, whether big or small, especially those in the in online transactions, yung mga single proprietorship businesses, you can have them registered in the Department of Trade and Industry at it takes only 8 minutes. Um, everything is purely online from end to end. You apply in 8 minutes, you will finish, you can pay, and then you can have the certificate issued to you via email lang po nila yan, and then you can even post it in your page para sigurado na na legit ka. And then of course it will attract the sellers to patronize your business kasi they would know that you are a registered business person and your business is registered, so wala silang fear. The importance also of having your businesses registered is so that, number one, the consumer protection agencies natin, DTI has one of the biggest, if not the biggest, consumer protection agency. Alam natin kung saan hahanapin when any consumer comes to us for a complaint. At least meron siyang address na maipoprovide, meron siyang contact person na po-provide, preferably the physical address and the phone number, not just the email address, so that we would know whom to look for and whom to make liable for the consumer. So another benefit of having your business registered is that you can avail of the benefits from the government. Alam natin, the Small Business Corporation now lends money to micro and small businesses. And of course, priority natin yung mga registered businesses. And for the consumer, hindi alam mo kung sino yung binibilihan mo, alam mo kung ano yung kung legitimate ba siya, or pagbalik mo mamaya yung payment scheme na gagawin mo, money transfer or Palawan padala or express padala, whatever form of payment, pagbalik mo dun sa computer mo, hindi mo na siya mahanap. Pagkatapos mong magbayad, pagkatapos niya makuha yung binayad mo, hindi mo na siya mahanap. That is a very big disadvantage for us consumers. That's why sa lahat ng nakikinig dito, I can see that we have 1,000 participants. Please be very careful doon sa binibilahan natin. We have to think twice, 3 times, kahit na 100 times pa. Kung legit ba tong seller na to, mukha ba siyang can be trusted, mukha bang totoo yung kanyang advertisement, yung kanyang description ng kanyang product na binibenta, ano ba yung reviews, meron ba tong track record, ano yung reviews ng mga ibang consumers before me na bumili sa kanya, na maayos ba siyang nagde-deliver, maayos ba siyang nagbebenta, and then does he have a redress mechanism? Doon sa mga pages ng mga sellers natin, you would see a link ng customer redress or customer assistance link nila. Meron ba siyang ganon? How does this seller protect the data that I will provide her? How does this seller protect whatever terms and conditions we will have? Will he comply? So these are the things that as a consumer, tayo lahat, tingnan muna natin mabuti, because there is also such a thing as buyer beware. Although sa DTI, we have a no wrong door policy, we accept all kinds of consumer complaints, but not all consumer complaints naman would necessarily have to be decided in favor of the consumer. Kasi meron namang minsan na honest naman yung seller, pero hindi natin naintindihan mabuti kung anong sinabi niya, but it's right there in the face of the page nung negosyante, hindi lang natin binasa or hindi lang natin nabasa. So in that case, tayo ang magiging liable, and we'll have to be responsible also for the money that we spend online shopping, dahil hard-earned naman yon, hindi naman natin siya pinupulot or hindi natin hinihingi. So especially at this time of the pandemic, we need to be wise also as spenders. Medyo maging wise tayo. Also, another tip, do we need this item? Do we need this product? Or if we don't need it, do we want it? How much do we want it? What will we use it for? How will I dispose of it? Or baka meron na akong ibang kapareho na ganitong produkto in my closet na hindi na natin naaalala. A lot of times, just to tell all of you, a lot of times ang dami natin binibili na, example, a shirt. Kasi mura lang siya, fast fashion, uso yan ngayon, Uniqlo, H&M, Forever 21, Giordano, kung ano-anong brands na mura kasi fast fashion nga siya, so madaling murang mo mabibili, but for all you know, you have 4 or 5 pieces in your closet na hindi nagagamit, or maybe yung kapatid mo meron namang gano'n na hindi niya na ginagamit. We can just ask instead of buying and spending, kasi kung hindi nga natin kailangan or meron namang ibang alternate or substitute that we can use, why even buy? Medyo malayo na sa topic, but I'll segue a little bit on sustainable consumption and production, saving planet Earth, because it's the only planet that we have, it's the only home that we have. Kasama po yung consumer choices natin dyan, whether it's online or offline, pero parang mas madaling mag-shopping online. So kasama yung consumer choices natin and consumer behavior natin that creates impact on the planet, on the environment, on everything that we see that's for free. We breathe free air, we drink free water. So ito po kasama rin yan. But that's a different advocacy on my part altogether. So I'll proceed with this. We have redresses under the E-commerce Act. Ito po yung provided ng nasa batas naman. There should be, number one, internal complaints handling mechanism ng mga sellers that I mentioned earlier. Dapat makikita nyo kung legitimate talaga sila, meron silang complaints handling system. Kung paano nyo sila makukontak, paano nyo makakausap, paano nyo mabibigay sa kanila kung ano man yung maging concern ninyo doon sa transaction. And then, pagkawala silang ganyan, but we of course encourage all retail businesses now to have this. Pagkawala silang ganyan, you can come to DTI for redress of your complaint. We have the Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau that handles all kinds of consumer complaints. That's why we have a no wrong door policy. All kinds of consumer complaints may be brought before us, but we encourage everyone to know the details. Sana kung madadala nyo sa atin yung complaint, especially if it's an online transaction, please give us complete details. Otherwise, pagka po hindi nyo alam kung sino yung binilihan nyo, or wala kayong physical address, or wala kayo kahit telephone number or email address, we'll have to borrow your device, and whatever device that you use, whether it's a laptop, a computer, or a desktop, kailangan po natin siyang dalhin sa cybercrime offices ng CIDG or the NBI so that they can track the IP address. It's going to be kind of a hassle for us na gawin yon. Kaya a lot of times then, which is sad, most consumers, kahit na meron silang grievance na ganyan, they refuse to come to us anymore. But of course, we also encourage them to do that, to come to us, let us know, para alam rin natin kung paano i-correct yung system. Dahil po yung the hassle nga, nahihiramin yung device ninyo, and then it will take at least 2 weeks for our cybercrime experts to track the IP address. And syempre, yung inconvenience sa inyo, ang pinakamabilis noon 2 weeks, but we do not know if it will even take siguro a month or even longer. That's why for us consumers, let's be very careful na alam natin kung sino siya. Kahit na maliit na halaga, kahit 45 pesos, 50 pesos, 100 pesos lang yung binili natin, the important thing is we need to be able to track these complaints so that we can propose legislation para ma-address, or in the future, makaprepare tayo for some legislation that will address these concerns. If you are not in the Philippines, or if you are in the Philippines but the seller that you're complaining of is outside the Philippines, we have cross-border complaints mechanism as well. Pwede po natin padaanin yun sa consular offices ng Philippines, wherever that country is. Like if for example, it's in Singapore, or Malaysia, yung binilihan natin, or Thailand, or wherever, pwede po yung consular office natin in that country ang papadalahan natin ng complaint, and then they can handle it. Or pwede rin po, if we have access directly to the foreign government agency, na pwede na kung saan covered yung seller, we can also do that. Kung this is in the event that the seller does not contact us anymore, or we don't know the physical address, or does not respond to all our messages. So we can also do that. Right now in the ASEAN, DTI represents the Philippines in the ASEAN Committee on Consumer Protection, and we're doing the online redress mechanism or cross-border dispute resolution. So each country in the ASEAN will have its own redress mechanism for online transactions, which is also purely online, and then we can help the country complaining. But that is within the ASEAN. That's why we're trying to expand it also to cover other countries outside the ASEAN. In DTI, complaints handling is done through the Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau. So you can call us through our consumer care hotline at DTI 1384, or you can send us your email at consumercare@dti.gov.ph. Pwede rin po, if it's still available to you, or if you find it more convenient, to send us a snail mail through the post office. Ito po yung stamp na, yung envelope na lalagyan ninyo ng stamp. Hindi po siya na masyadong uso, but it can still be used and it's still very effective, except that medyo matagal siya compared to an email or compared to a phone call or yung personally that you will visit us in the office. Here is our SMS number. We can receive text messages also via the cellular number here below at 0917-834-3330. So just to give you an idea of all online transactions that we have received in the Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau of DTI, we have received complaints against online transactions. Ito po yung online establishments natin. From compared to 2019, you will see we have received now 14,344 complaints as of October 15, 2020. So this is from January 1st, 2020 to October 15. I don't think I have a data here, but you will see also that from January to March 15, 2020, ang na-receive po namin na complaints involving online transactions was at 984. Did not even reach 1,000, but you will see how it has grown during the pandemic. Declared po ang Philippines under state of public calamity ng March 15. So ang computation po natin itong 14,344 is from March 16, 2020 until October 15, 2020. I mean, to include, of course, also yung 900. So almost a little more than 13,000 yung na-increase natin or complaints that we received at the height of the pandemic. Compared to 2019, itong 2,457, that's for the whole year already of 2019. We also have offline transactions, yung mga complaints involving offline transactions in physical stores. Ito naman po yung number as of October 15, 2020. We're already at 33,472. Complaints, yung complaints resolution natin in the next, in the slide, you will see what we do. Sometimes we dismiss them kung hindi po naman legitimate yung complaint, or kung alam naman natin na ang hindi naman then I mean yung complaint ay hindi naman kailangan na mag-away sila or magdemandahan pa, but during mediation naayos na po natin siya. It's settled, it's resolved during mediation kung saan the parties already agree on what they want and what they can deliver. So ito po yung ating mediation na ginagawa. So we have dismissed some cases, but we also have endorsed cases to other departments, because there are some cases that are beyond the jurisdiction of the Department of Trade and Industry, like medical devices. Ang primary jurisdiction po na on medical devices, medicine, or other medical products belong to either the Department of Health through the Food and Drug Administration. So hindi po yan DTI, will have to endorse the complaint to them. If your complaint is about the vanishing load or yung mabilis na uubos yung inyong internet load, yung mga ganyan, if it pertains to telcos, the jurisdiction lies with the National Telecommunications Commission. So this is what happens. We accept them, but we endorse them, and then we follow up and see through the resolution. Hanggang ma-resolve po nila yung complaint, nalalaman po ng DTI yan. And we follow up kung hindi pa nila na-resolve. So here you will also see the resolution on online complaints naman. Kaya ito po yung number naman. We have 14,344 to date. I mean, as of October 15. And then in the next slide, you will see also kung ano-ano yung platforms na pinakamalalaki na nakaka-receive tayo ng complaint. For Shopee, we have received, of course, this is online. For Shopee, we have received 3,252 complaints as of October 15, and then Lazada, 3,192. For others, meaning others, we also have Zalora, Amazon, Alibaba, Facebook, and all the other platforms. So makita nyo, yung Shopee and Lazada, why they have the biggest number? Kasi po sila rin yung pinakamaraming sellers at pinakamaraming patrons na namimili sa kanila or nagsha-shopping sa kanila. Ngayon, ang kilala na natin na mall ay online malls na. Shopee and Lazada or Zalora or others. Doon na tayo nagpupunta instead of going physically to the malls because of the pandemic, and this is now our normal. It's the new normal. So the nature of the complaints that we receive, ito po, you will see a lot of times there is failure to deliver, but this is not necessarily in this order. Ano na po siya, halo-halo na yan, but ganyan po yung mga usual nature of complaints that we receive. Can be either defective yung produkto or deceptive. Defective yung produkto, ibig sabihin may sira yung produkto or hindi nag-function ng exactly how it was advertised. And then yung deceptive sales act or practice, ito naman po yung merong intention to deceive the seller. Either yung in-advertise niya as to size, color, quality, or kung ano man yun, hindi naman ganon pala yung dineliver sa inyo. Like, if my favorite example is the donut salbabida, yung donut na floater na malaki in the picture, makikita nyo online in the picture, suot-suot ng isang babae na nagsiswimming. And then ang dadating, ang delivery, yung donut size na donut. Yung inflatable nga siya, pero donut size. Ganun kaliit na parang kakainin. So there you will see there is deceit. Meron pang isang classic example. One of our assistant secretaries in the department, meron siyang binili na kitchen rack, yung lalagyan ng kanyang mga kaldero. Dun sa advertisement, 3-layer siya na rack. So you would imagine, halos kasing taas ng pinto. But ang dumating sa kanya, 3-layer rack, pero kasing taas ng lamesa. So clearly, there is deceit. Nakita nyo yung sales act or practice na ginawa ng seller was really intended to deceive the buyer. Kaya we have to be very careful of these things. Kung ano po yung advertisement or kung ano yung advertised nila, description ng produkto, that should be exactly what you will receive. Kung hindi po nila yun, kung hindi ganon ang nangyari, there is deceit in the sales act or practice. Other questions or other issues that we receive, ayan yung wrong price tagging, incomplete deliveries, wrong item delivered, but all these you can always bring to us in DTI so that we can help you or assist you in resolving the issues. Change or other concerns that we receive, yung change of preference ng customer. A lot of times, yung customer mismo nagbago ng isip siya, ayaw niya na yung ganitong produkto, so pwedeng papalitan ba, pwedeng i-return na lang. Or in physical stores, you will know that the consumer has the redress of either a repair, replace, or refund in that order. Kailangan kung defective yung produkto, i-repair ng seller. Kung hindi na kayang i-repair, kailangan i-replace ng seller. Anything of equivalent value or anything exactly the same as what was bought or whatever, basta kung mas mahal yung gusto nyo, kailangan idagdagan nyo na lang. Kung mas mura yung gusto nyo, kailangan ibalik nila yung sukle. So the second is the replacement. Third is refund. Pagka hindi talaga kayo nagkasundo, wala talaga silang available, ayaw nyo yung replacement na binibigay nila, you can always demand for refund of whatever you paid for. This is in physical stores, and this should also apply in online stores. Ganyan po yung ang batas natin. I mentioned that the Consumer Act does not make any distinction between a physical and a virtual store. So whether the transaction is online or offline, kailangan po ang redress mechanisms natin pareho. So repair, replace, and refund, ito po yung tatlo in that order na available to all consumers. So there are also Price Act violations, yung overpricing, yung masyadong mataas yung presyo compared to the suggested retail price. For example, anang issued by the national government, there are 3 agencies now, DTI, DOH, and DA, that impose suggested retail prices on basic necessities and prime commodities. Offline din po, this is applicable also online. Hindi po siya nagdi-distinguish, hindi kami nagdi-distinguish. That's why we also make sure, DTI po, we monitor all online sellers also, and we advise the sellers na kung ano ang suggested retail price in the offline store, ganun din po online. So you can always come to us, bring this to our attention kung meron kayong makita na hindi nasusunod na gano'n. So ito po yung mga example lang ng mga stores na nakikita natin. Ito na yung mga virtual malls na lagi natin pinupuntahan. Some of us would go shopping every day online. So these are the malls that we visit. But without any established reputation or standing, dito makikita nyo ilan dyan or sino-sino dyan yung mga naka-establish na ng kanilang patronage at ng kanilang reputation in the online world, in the cyber world. So ito po makikita nyo. Kaya ang advice natin, if the seller has not established a reputation or a track record, hanap tayo ng product na binibenta ng mga naka-establish. And this is also an advice to young entrepreneurs here na gusto rin mag-online selling or gustong mag-online negosyo. You need to build confidence in your business. Kaya kailangan nga yung first recommendation natin is to have your business registered. Formalize it, because you don't want to be forever a small business. Someday you would want to see your business grow, and you would want it to be big, but you will not grow big if it remains to be unregistered. So hahanapin ng tao yung registration mo on yung legitimacy ng negosyo mo. So if your ambition is to see a big online company, you have to have it registered while you're still small. So like I also mentioned earlier, pag wala po yung physical address, dadalhin pa natin yan sa cybercrime offices natin, either with NBI or the CIDG. So these are in the next slide, you will see the sample online advisories na ginagawa natin. Good business practices should also be applied online. This is the ASEAN. This is from the ASEAN, yung 4 po na yan sa taas, you will see the ASEAN logo. Ito po yung similarly with all the other 9 countries in the ASEAN, yan po yung ginagawa natin. So pati po yung kasama po si Singapore in the ASEAN, so whatever online business practices that Singapore has now has been adopted by the ASEAN, so that all other countries, all 10 member states of the ASEAN also do the same. Makikita nyo po yung mga ating promotional materials from the ASEAN. We post them on Consumer Care in Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Ito po yung, you will see also the box here. Please follow and like them para makita, please like and follow so that you can also get tips from us. We post them there para matulungan ang consumers and to make sure that you are not disadvantaged when you go selling, when you go shopping, whether online or offline. We issue consumer tips so to help all consumers and to provide you the correct information that you need when you do your shopping transactions. So ito po, in this slide, in the box below, you will see a legitimate online seller has an office address, has a contact information, has a secure payment option. Wag po natin, let us not be very comfortable with the money transfer at money padala, yung mga ganyan na payment options or payment gateways. You will understand na kung wala po silang credit card payment or yung credit gateway, payment gateway, you will wonder as a consumer or as a buyer, bakit siya walang ganong facility? And then you will realize, kaya siya walang ganong facility because he was not given that credit standing by any financial institution or any bank. And bakit? Baka po hindi kompleto yung papeles niya, or baka after credit investigation, hindi naman totoo or will not be qualified to get that payment gateway. So these are the things that we need to consider. Yung mga, well, yes, we do cash on delivery. We can do cash on delivery. Although it is not very much encouraged right now kasi po ang Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is encouraging financial literacy and encouraging Filipinos to open bank accounts para naman yung financial literacy natin and at least development, yung progress natin, nakabangko na yung pera mo, hindi nakatago sa ilalim ng kama, hindi nakatago sa cabinet or sa closet mo yung pera mo. So ibabangko yan. But although we encourage that, yung cash on delivery right now is used commonly by consumers to protect themselves also. But I just have to explain to you na kung sa platform po kayo bibili or sa individual seller na sila yung nag-engage doon sa service delivery or so doon sa logistics provider, hindi po kayo directly engaged. Ang engagement nyo doon sa seller. So if you buy an item at dineliver sa inyo nang hindi nyo gusto, a lot of times we would advise the consumer na doon po natin yan i-take up sa seller because the delivery guy na inaaway natin, wala namang kinalaman doon sa transaction na ginawa natin. Ang kinalaman lang po niya ay pinadeliver sa kanya nung seller yung produkto para makarating sa bahay natin. So, pagka may ganitong concerns po, let us take up our concern with the seller, hindi po dun sa logistics provider. Kaya kahit po cash on delivery, we would advise bayaran nyo yung delivery at ayusin natin doon sa online seller na lang. Because the poor delivery guy, for all we know, yun lang po yung kanyang trabaho. Matatanggal pa siya sa trabaho niya dahil lang doon sa gagawin natin or doon sa decision natin to not refuse the delivery. So in the ASEAN also, there is an online business code of conduct, which the ASEAN Committee on Consumer Protection has formulated. Ito po yung mga, for any budding entrepreneurs here na gustong magnegosyo, ito po yung online business conduct na gusto natin sana in the Philippines also to adopt. So all online business people, all online sellers, kailangan po maging ganito yung kanilang conduct sa pagbebenta nila online. This is also included in the Internet Transactions Act that is currently being pushed in Congress. DTI po talaga ang halos mag-acrobatics na para lang matapos yung law na yon because we really need it. Right now, all we have is the Consumer Act, pero yung Consumer Act po natin is a 1992 law. So, kailangan rin po siyang i-revise dahil nag-modernize na ang mundo globally. We have modernized already, and in the Philippines, somehow, kailangan rin nating sumabay. So we all need to be protected as consumers. That's why we're pushing for the Internet Transactions Act. In the Internet Transactions Act, pushed by Senator Win Gatchalian and Congressman Wes Gatchalian and Senator Coco Pimentel, are pushing for this. Sila po yung chair ng respective trade committees in the lower house and in the Senate, have consulted us. Kaya marami rin po kaming naibigay sa kanilang inputs, and one of this is the ASEAN Online Business Code of Conduct. Ito po yung mga behavior na dapat gawin ng mga online business people na nagbebenta to protect themselves and to protect the consumer as well. So kailangan we treat them, we should be treated fairly. Ito po yung mga some of the few, hindi ko na po siya isahin, but this is included in the Internet Transactions Act that we're pushing in Congress. And in the last slide, you will see also yung communication with honesty and truthfulness. Kailangan pong gawin yan. Yung truth in advertising, the seller should always be truthful in whatever he advertises. Pag sinabi niya pong kaya niyang mag-deliver ng 100 pieces, kailangan ma-deliver niya yung 100 pieces. Kung sasabihin niya po na kaya niyang mag-deliver ng 10 volume, kailangan po 10 volume yung kanyang i-deliver. So that's part of truth in advertising, not only in the description of the products, but also the capability of the seller kung kaya niya. Ito po yung mga yan. So
Nako, Yusek Ruth, thank you very much. Ang dami niyo pong alam niyo po, ang dami pong mga questions right now from our panelists. Meron pa naman pong Q&A. So mamaya Yusek Ruth will be back with us to answer all your questions. Alam ko po, ang dami po sa chat box ngayon na marami pong mga tanong sa inyo tungkol sa consumer protection and how to protect themselves against yung mga scam at saka yung kung kanino sila magrereklamo. Ako nga tinake down ko na yung hotline ng DTI. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, Yusek Ruth. And Yusek Ruth will be joining us later sa ating question and answer portion. So lahat po ng gusto nyong ibato tungkol sa DTI, sasagutin po yan mamaya ni Yusek Ruth para sa inyo. Maraming salamat po, ma'am. And moving on with our program, we all know that online businesses are very convenient. You can order and just pay the product in just a few clicks. Your orders will be delivered to you wherever you are or wherever you want or wherever you want to. Pero alam natin that online shopping nowadays is very convenient, but we also know that convenience comes with a price. And if we are not careful, there is a risk that you may become a victim of online scams. Nako, importante rin po ito mga kapuso. Kaya you should all listen in on our next lecture. Our next speaker is an Internet Crimes Against Children specialist of the International Justice Mission, or IJM. He is passionate about protecting the world's most vulnerable populations, especially children, and desires to see a safer and more accessible internet for all people. To present deterring cybercrime in an online world, may I call on Mr. Caleb Carroll?
Thank you, Cara.
Hi, Caleb. Thank you for joining us. We're all so excited to listen in on your presentation. So take it away, Caleb.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm an Internet Crimes Against Children specialist with IJM here in the Philippines. I'm actually back in the US right now in South Carolina taking care of some family stuff, but my wife and I live normally in Metro Manila, and I'm based there. So for those of you who may not know about IJM, I'm sure many of you do. We're a global organization that protects people in poverty from violence. And we have a global presence all over the world, handling lots of different issues related to different forms of human trafficking and slavery. So in the Philippines, we're specifically working on the very complex issue of combating the online sexual exploitation of children. So, and we do that by partnering with many of you in the child protection community, by partnering with justice system partners, social workers, prosecutors, judges, NGOs, and community members to try to protect people from violence. And here, of course, that's children. So what is this random person from the US doing here in the Philippines? And what does an Internet Crimes Against Children specialist have to teach you about your online safety in regards to your data and your finances? Well, I'm a career law enforcement professional. So I was in law enforcement for 14 years before I accepted the position with IJM to come to the Philippines. You see the picture there in the middle. That's my oldest son and my youngest. My youngest was born in Manila in May during ECQ. So he's our pandemic baby. And the rest are various pictures. So I've had an opportunity to be a supervisor on a uniform patrol shift, a trainer, a K-9 handler, and a detective. So the last part of that was investigating all kinds of different crimes against children. So child abuse, child sexual assault, internet crimes against children. But then prior to that, I was a general investigator that was working on general crimes, which would include property theft, financial fraud, anything of that matter. And I also did some significant training and undergraduate work on cybersecurity and cybercrime. So even though I am doing the ICAC work now, I do have a background in understanding this stuff. And probably more important than my professional background is, you know, in the US, online transactions have been a really important part of the economy for a long time. And so as part of that, I have been both the beneficiary of that, right? I have done business online a lot, but I've also been the victim of financial data breaches and investigated financial data breaches. So, you know, it's an interesting total life experience that I've had with this topic. So this is one of my favorite quotes about cybercrime, and especially like financial cybercrime. And that's one of the main cyber risks is to think they don't exist. The other is to try to treat all potential risks. So what that means is if we don't acknowledge the threats and take some steps to protect ourselves, we will invariably subject ourselves to a situation that puts our data at risk. However, if we fret about all of the risks that are out there, we will limit the possibilities, right? So there is a certain amount of risk with everything we do in life. There's unfortunately, a little bit of risk even getting out of bed and going to work on most days prior to COVID. Grocery shopping carries a new kind of risk with COVID, right? And we do things to mitigate or to protect ourselves from those risks, but they always exist. And the same's true online. The online platform is an incredible, powerful tool. We just need to make sure that we take some steps to protect ourselves. So really interestingly, in the first half of 2019 alone, there were 4.1 billion records worldwide exposed in data breaches. And then 71% of those breaches were financially motivated. So this is very much a financially motivated crime. And we often think of hacking and data breaches as hackers sitting in a dark room somewhere, infiltrating your system or your connection. And that does happen, but that's not the majority of the risk that you will face. And that's not the majority of the risk that will happen to you potentially. So we'll talk about that in a minute. 28% of breaches involved malware. We'll talk about malware in a minute. And 33% of breaches were the result of social engineering and or phishing. So that is the social engineering and phishing are the most common ways that you're put at risk online. And we'll talk about what those are as well. But when you add those together, those two things are a vast, overwhelming majority of cybercrime related to all other issues. So the 8 most common causes of data breaches. Number one is weak and stolen credentials, particularly passwords, right? If all of your passwords, including to your bank and your PayPal, are, your dog's name and a number 1 or 1, 2, 3, 4 exclamation point, you're probably at risk. You need to develop some stronger credentials than that. Backdoors, application vulnerabilities are a huge thing. This has been a very big political issue that we've seen globally over TikTok right now, right? What are the exposures that that application places your data at? But you know, TikTok's not probably your biggest risk as an individual. There are other applications that expose your information and give unnecessary permissions that you need to be aware of. We'll talk about checking into that as well. Malware. So this is different forms of code that are placed onto your gadget or your computer, which then feed information back to somebody or infects and downgrades the capability of your system. Of course, social engineering, you're going to see that word a lot because it is the greatest risk to you as a user. Too many permissions, again, we'll talk about that. Insider threats, this is the #1 risk to businesses. Most big data breaches from businesses, around 31% or something like that, I believe it is, have an inside involvement. So, so some very old school criminal techniques that are just applied to an online context. And then improper configuration of system and user error. So password protection. These are hopefully some tips that you can utilize when you're using your financial information and using your data online, but they apply to multiple different types of data as well. And so really importantly, don't use the same password for everything. But if you're going to, right, I'm guilty of this, right? My Facebook and, you know, maybe my, you know, home internet login are the same, right? But, and while that's not recommended, I recognize that we're all human and we like some simplicity in the way that we work online. So at least try not to use the same password for your financial or your sensitive accounts, right? You can have the same password for some of the lower level security accounts, but please try to use a strong and unique passcode for your sensitive logins. I also recommend that you change your passwords every 3 months at least. This ensures that if there is a large data breach with a company or with an organization you've done business with or within your own logins, that they won't have access to it very long, right? You may not know about the breach, but if you're updating your password every 3 months and just setting a habit of that, then you can prevent that from being catastrophic. And then you can also, if remembering passwords is a hard thing for you, because it certainly is for me, you can also look into password managers. So Apple's integrated system is very good and very secure. 1Password, LastPass, they can help you create strong passwords and they can securely store them and help you with them. Application permission. So we give applications, lots of different applications, Facebook, Google, I mean, any application you can think of, right? When you install it, it pops up a window and asks you, will you give it these permissions? And we almost always click yes. So a lot of times we give these applications way too much access to our private information. So I encourage you to read the application requests very carefully about what kind of information they're looking for, and then go in and give only the minimum permissions required for that service, right? So, you know, Facebook may need access to my photos so that I can post something, but they may not necessarily need access to some of my other information, for example. And then you can go into your settings and look at in your privacy menu and adjust these as well. So the advice I give you is to give the minimum permissions to get the service that you need out of that app, right? Social engineering. This is where I want to spend the majority of the rest of our time together. So social engineering is the biggest risk to most of us every day. And these are achieved through conventional and new techniques which involve human interaction. So they can involve like shoulder surfing, or then even newer techniques like scareware. So you're on a website and all of a sudden you get this random pop-up window that says your computer has been infected with a virus. Click this button now for your antivirus. And the next thing you know, you've downloaded malware or spamware. Pretexting, baiting, we'll talk about those, but these are all traditional criminal ideas that have just been transitioned to an online or a cyber environment. And again, it's not as fancy as most of us would think, right? It is very cunning, and they do put a lot of effort into making this stuff look realistic. But it's not necessarily somebody intruding into your system. So to prevent this, the biggest recommendation I can give you is don't open emails or attachments from suspicious or unexpected sources. If you get a random email with an attachment that you weren't expecting, just delete it. Don't open it, no matter how encouraging the email is. And if it's from a coworker or somebody that you know and you weren't expecting it, send them a text or send them a Viber message or a WhatsApp message and say, hey, did you send me a Word document? Because even something as seemingly harmless as a Word document can contain virulent coding that can infect your system. So just be careful with your emails, right? Don't open emails, attachments from suspicious or unexpected sources. Use two-factor authentication whenever possible. So if you have that, a lot of banks will give you the option to sign up for two-factor authentication, where maybe you enter a password and then they'll send you a text or a notification and you have to say, yes, that's me. Sign up for that wherever possible. That gives you an extra layer of really good protection. Be wary of tempting offers. If it sounds too good to be true, it is, right? So, the first online scams, I don't even know if you remember these, where you would get this email from a guy claiming to be a Nigerian prince, right? That had inherited money. He just needed you to send him bank account information, and people, like in the hopes of getting something in return, bought into this, right? And that's really dangerous. So be careful of that. And then you can also, before you ever respond to anything, right? If it's an offer you weren't expecting or that doesn't seem legitimate, Google it. There's lots of information out there that you can find about current scams. And then keep your antivirus and anti-malware software up to date if you have it on your computer. Let those updates run. I know that they get really pesky and annoying sometimes, but let them run. Phishing is a big one. So this is often used to steal user data, including login credentials, credit card numbers. So what happens here is that the criminal entity will pretend to be a trusted source. So you may get an email one day, just as an example. This hasn't happened. I don't know if this is ongoing, but this is just a total example. Let's say you're banking with BPI and you get an email randomly one day from BPI saying, your account's been hacked. Click on this link to go and fix it, right? And it asks you to put in your login credentials. Well, that can take you to an alternate site that looks extremely legitimate, that will look very, very much like the legitimate BPI site. And once you enter that information, you will find that whoever the cyber criminal was has your information at that point because you've entered it in for them. And they make this stuff look very, very, very legitimate. This can happen on text message as well, right? You get a text message says, smart, somebody try to elicit login these same techniques can be used now on text message and instant messages as well. So an example of one look like, right? So like maybe you get an email saying your university network password will expire and follow this link, right? And that looks pretty legitimate. But let's say that the university website is actually that one up top, myuniversity.edu renewal, but then it takes you to this bottom link. So it still looks very, very legitimate, right? But it's not. And so when you enter that information, the hacker then has that information. So Again, it can occur on text messages and email. And the most important suggestion I can give you is do not click on unexpected or odd links. If you get an email from your bank, for example, saying that you need to fix something, open up a web browser separately and go log on to the bank account yourself, or log on to PayPal, or log on to Smarter Globe. Don't click that link within your email. Open up your web browser and manually go to your account. And then, of course, again, multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication is really helpful with this as well. 92% of malware worldwide is delivered by email. So be very, very careful with your email and the links and the documents that you're opening from your email. Final tips real quickly as I wrap up. Please, 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 to keep your data and your finances safe, use a private device. So don't log into your bank account and save information on a shared device if at all possible, and use a secure connection. So use your home internet, use your cellular data. Don't use public Wi-Fi to access those really important accounts. That is where your connection is most weak. And if you have to, right, if you're staying in a hotel for a couple weeks for some reason, or something's happened, then you may want to consider subscribing to a reputable VPN service, because that, when activated, would encrypt your data before sending it from the device. But the best way is when you need to log on to your financial information, when you need to send private data, use a private device, use a secure connection, a private connection. Investigate the merchant URL, right? Make sure that you're going to the right URL, double and triple check the URL, that you got all the letters right before you check out. Make sure the merchant is legitimate, right? That's really, really important. Pay with the most secure method available to you. If your bank supports virtual cards, that's an excellent solution. If you have access to a credit card, that is safer than using your debit card. Not everybody does, but there are more consumer protections with the credit card versus the debit card. So if you have access, just use the most secure method available to you. And then again, this is obviously important because we said it multiple times. Multi-factor authentication is your friend, right? And set up your account alerts on your bank, right? Set them at a very low level so that you're constantly getting alerts when financial transactions happen on your bank account. And then routinely review and maintain, check your accounts, check your financial statements regularly. Don't just throw them away. I'm guilty of that, just deleting the email and moving on. Change your passwords every 3 months regularly. Make sure your computer software and your computer protections are up to date. And if you do these things, right, it doesn't mitigate all risk. There's no way to be 100% safe, but this will keep you safe in a vast, vast, vast majority of the situations. So thank you so much for your attention. I hope some of those tips are super helpful to you. And if you do these things, again, I think you can have a really, really solid and good online experience, and you can protect not only your data, but your family's data as well. Share these tips, especially with your parents and grandparents, right? It's unfortunate that elderly people are often the targets of many of these scams, but they do tend to be, and they also tend to be because they're not as familiar with technology. They tend to be more vulnerable to them. So please share these tips with them as well. And thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for your time.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Caleb. I'm actually taking notes. I'm actually taking a lot of notes because I'm not old enough. I'm not so old, but gosh, I'm guilty of all these password. I really need to change my password right now. Oh my gosh. Thank you very much, Caleb. And our viewers have a lot of questions for you. So we'll see you in a short bit. So are you ready? Okay. Here are the poll questions. Okay. Unang-una, are you following the Ako Para sa Bata Facebook page? Are you following the Ako Para sa Bata Facebook page? Yan. Okay? Tingnan nga natin, sana naman fina-follow po ninyo, ha? Oh, ayan, 86% are following the Ako Para sa Bata Facebook page. 14% hindi po nagfa-follow. Mag-follow na po kayo ngayon. Alright. Next poll question. Next poll question natin, have you experienced being scammed online? Yan, ang answers po, yes, I have experienced being scammed online. Fortunately, no. Na-scam na ba ako? Iniisip ko, na-scam na ba ako? Parang hindi pa naman ata. So, i-click nyo lang po kung kayo po ay nasa Zoom or i-comment nyo lang po kung kayo po ay nasa Facebook. Have you experienced being scammed online? Yan. Na-scam na ba kayo? Or awa ng Diyos, hindi pa. Uy! 72% fortunately no, 28% ako na-scam na daw sila online. Makinig po kayo mamaya doon sa ating Q&A portion kasi our guest Caleb and Yusek Ruth will talk about online scams, etc. and will answer your questions. All right. Next question, where do you keep your account passwords? Where do you keep your account passwords? The choices are, I have a good memory. I just remember my passwords. Hindi ata ako to. I write them in the notes app of my phone. Guilty! Guilty po ako dyan. Number 3, I store them in a secured password manager app. Uy, meron palang ganun. Hindi ko alam yun ah. And number 4, I write them in a paper or notebook. Sana lang po kung ginagawa nyo to, hindi nyo mawala yung notebook na yan. And if you have other ways of keeping your, of remembering or keeping your passwords, just click on others. Okay, ako guilty ako dun sa notes app eh. Ang problema ko kapag nanakaw yung phone ko, mabubuksan na nila lahat ng password ko. Ay. Anyway, tatanungin natin yan mamaya kay Caleb if that's a smart move. Okay, so sabi 35% said they have good memory and they just remember their passwords. I hope it's a strong password. 29% said they write them in the notes app of their phones, just like me. 6% said they store them in a secure password manager app. Naku, konti lang kasi mga techie eh. And 29% said they write their passwords in a paper or a notebook. All right, thank you everyone for participating. Let's call back our guests. Si Mr. Ace Azaraga, Yusek Ruth Castello from the DTI, and Mr. Caleb Carroll from IJM. We have a lot of questions. So, picking up from the last poll question, where is the safest place to store your password, Caleb? Me, I usually store them in the notes section of my notes app of my phone. Is that a wise idea or no?
Well, it depends on what notes app you're using and how many permissions you're giving, right? So again, like Apple Notes, for example, the Apple ecosystem is quite secure, which is why we don't have as many apps on there, right? You can get more apps on an Android device because Apple is so restrictive about the security permissions they use. So I personally use, because I have a terrible memory, so I'm impressed that so many people have good memory. I personally use, like, Apple has an internal password management, but I've also in the past used LastPass is an excellent resource to store them and to create strong passwords. And then if you're the kind of person that needs to write them down, I just suggest writing them down somewhere very secure at home and leaving that at home, right? Don't take it around with you or leave it in places that somebody could potentially access those.
Great. Thank you. Yusek Ruth, there are a lot of questions about consumer complaints. How long do you act on complaints? Gaano po katagal yung mga complaints? You already gave us the hotline. It's 1384 or 0917-534. Tama po ba? 834-3330. Yeah, those are the hotlines.
Yes, correct.
Talagang sinulat ko siya talaga kasi just in case, 'di ba? Pero Yusek Ruth, how long does it take po yung mga complaints na ito?
Upon receipt of a complaint, whether online or through the hotline or whatever form nila ma-receive ng DTI, upon receipt yan, we will issue within 3 days yung notice of preliminary conference, that's mediation. So pagka natapos na sa mediation, kailangan siya matapos within 10 days. I mean, pag nag-appear na yung both parties, we need to finish the complaint, be able to resolve it within 10 days. And then when it's leveled up to adjudication, if no agreement was reached at the mediation level, we go up to adjudication. We need to finish within 20 days naman.
So medyo kailangan pala talaga ng patience dito. So really the best way is to prevent being scammed by checking kung talagang legit yung seller, yung mga ganyan, 'di ba, Yusek?
Right. We need to protect ourselves. Then, syempre, kailangan, we advocate for intelligent consumers. So, kailangan natin talaga, think before we click the button ng buy.
Meron po bang website ng mga legit sellers? I mean, meron po bang listahan ng DTI ng mga registered sellers?
Right now, Kara, we don't because it is not mandated. The sellers are not mandated to register with DTI. But the Internet Transactions Act will, hopefully, when it passes, will mandate a registry so that we can create a database of all online sellers.
Pero ang tip sa atin, mga kapuso ni Yusek Ruth, is that pag registered sa DTI yung seller, mas mataas yung chances that it is a legit and credible seller, no?
Yes, but although this is not necessarily a permit to operate, at least alam natin saan sila hanapin because there's a physical address. And then they can also, the listeners here can view the DTI website on all registered business names, yung sole proprietorships. It's also in the SEC website for corporations and partnerships.
Nice,
so
nice.
They can check it. They can verify.
Good. Google it, guys. All right. And speaking of legit online sellers, nandito pa rin with us si Ace Azaraga and kayo, Ace, of Kitchen City, kayo registered talaga kayo with the DTI, meron kayong BIR, etc.
Yes.
Talagang pag may complaints sila, alam nila kung paano kayo hahabulin.
Yes. Naman, actually we had complaints din naman pero because of our customer service, naayos naman siya agad. So na-address naman agad yung mga complaints nila. So usually lang naman yung late deliveries.
Meron nagtanong dito, do you serve halal food?
For the frozen meal, hindi pa. Kasi halal food is sobrang hirap din. So may process yan. So hindi siya ganun kadali deliver for us.
Correct.
So eventually, siguro in the future, we're going to study for the halal food then. Then eventually we'll try to deliver halal food.
All right, great. That's great news. Caleb, Mr. Caleb Carroll, we have another question for you. Is it safe to use online banking? Question niya ni Noralja Mamao. At related to this, sabi naman ni Glian Norbe, na biktima daw siya, he is a victim of an unauthorized transactions in the bank and it caused that all his money was withdrawn by an unauthorized person. Can you run after the bank if ever you get victimized by these kinds of scams on online banking? Is it really safe? Is online banking really safe? Or are there measures to make your online banking safer?
Yeah, so I mean, online banking, nothing is 100% safe, right? Like that's the reality. But online banking and online consuming is quite safe as long as because banks and legitimate merchants are investing quite a bit in systems that are safe, right? The weakest link in all that is us. So most cybercrime experts say that 80% of cybercrime can be prevented by good internet hygiene. And that's the things that we're talking about right now, right? Regularly updating your password, confirming merchant accounts, not clicking links and stuff out of your email. So it can be quite safe as long as we take steps to protect our personal data.
Okay.
And so to the second part of that, most major banks and major banks in the Philippines have pretty substantial fraud investigation departments.
Yes.
So, you know, the best thing to do is as soon as the illicit activity is noticed, to make a report to your financial institution rather, so that they can begin investigating that that transaction. Again, if you can get a credit card, you know, I encourage you to try to have one if you can, and utilize that, and then pay it off immediately, because that will allow you, that keeps your money from being withdrawn from your account, right? If there's a fraudulent transaction, it's the bank's money that is tied up, right? If somebody gets and steals your credit card and uses it, the bank is out the money until they figure it out. It's not your money out of your debit account. So, but either way, the sooner you can report it to your bank's fraud department, the better, so that they can help you.
You also discussed in your presentation about antivirus ways. Some people have been asking, what is the strongest and most reliable antivirus and anti-malware, and what do you do if you become a victim of a virus or a malware infection? Can you just simply reformat your phone or your device, and it automatically removes the virus?
In many cases, yes. There are some firmware viruses that aren't reset based on a restore on that, but that's not the norm, right? So as far as, like, you know, anti-malware and antivirus software, there are lots of really good, like, mainstream solutions out there. Norton Antivirus has been around forever. McAfee, Cisco systems. There, if you Google, you know, top 10 free antivirus software, there are some legitimate good tech blogs and stuff out there that can lead you to a good solution. Same thing with virtual private networks. So virtual private networks, what that is when you connect to that, is it encrypts your data and sends it through a different end node than your IP address. And so what that allows you to do, what that's useful for, what I use it for, is if I'm on a public connection and I need to send something like company email that has sensitive information, or I need to log on to my financial institutions, I will utilize that. I use ExpressVPN, but there's tons of others. And it encrypts my data. So if there's a hacker sitting in Starbucks next to me trying to intrude into my data stream and get my information, he won't be able to. It's just going to look like a scramble, a mess to him, because the VPN software is encrypting it and sending it.
Okay, thank you for that information. Yusek Ruth, maraming mga nagtatanong. Apparently, some people who are watching us right now have people who know delivery guys, Food Panda or Grab, and some of them have been victimized by scams. So may mga Food Panda driver daw na nabiktima ng mga scammer, or mga Grab food driver na somebody order, tapos when they get there, wala naman palang nag-order. What do they do? Pwede po ba sila magreklamo sa DTI? Or saan ba sila dapat magreklamo?
Well, sa DTI kasi we accept consumer complaints. But this one, if it's the business, or kung mag-isa lang naman si seller, if it's not a company, we can just probably assist and take them to the PNP so that they can file a complaint and then the PNP can investigate. Ano na yan kasi it's outside consumer protection because the business na yung logistics provider, hindi na siya consumer.
Correct. For those who are asking, may mga nagtatanong kasi sa atin ngayon, yung umorder ka daw online, tapos pagdating daw sa'yo, parang it's just garbage or bato lang yung nasa loob ng ano. Yusek Ruth, can you, if it's okay, can you repeat po the hotline numbers ng DTI, saan po sila pwedeng lumapit, at saka po ano yung mga kailangan nilang proof that they have been scammed?
Yes, they can send us the email, yung pictures or video, if they can do that, and then the receipts, yung proof of purchase nila, send it to us via email at consumercare@dti.gov.ph, or they can call us through DTI 1384. Kung nakalimutan nila yung email address and numbers natin, please visit the consumer care pages in Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or the DTI website.
So ulitin ko lang po ha, guys. Ako po sinulat ko na sa phone ko, DTI Consumer Complaints. So 1384 is their hotline, but you can also SMS them on 0917-834 333330 or email them at consumercare@dti.gov.ph. Ayun. Is kayo, wala naman kayong nare-receive pa na complaints so far? What if somebody tells you na parang parang hindi na frozen yung dumating na food sa akin, yung mga ganyan? How do you handle those things?
We have naman mga minimal complaints naman. So we have our own customer service handles the complaint. So once we receive complaint, we call them, and yun, resolve naman namin agad. Kung may problem with the food naman, we replace it naman agad.
Okay,
So
great.
sobrang ano naman, as of now, bihira na rin naman yung complaint namin. So, kasi before, from the start, maraming complaint talaga yan. If eventually naman, na ayos naman namin siya agad, ngayon, so bihira na yung mga complaints.
Uy, paano ba mag-order sa sa Kitchen City?
Just go to our website, yung www.kcfrozenmeals.com. So,
Okay,
you can order naman doon, you can pay online na rin.
great. We have so many questions here. There's a question, I think this is a question for Caleb. Which parental control software or app would you recommend for laptop PCs and Android phones? Parental control software. What is the most reliable?
Yeah, it depends. If you want a paid service, Bark, which is a company, it's actually Bark, BARK, has excellent service that monitors, like if you're putting it on a chat, like one of your children's phones or something, it will monitor for like sexual content, bullying, violence. I mean, and will notify you about that stuff. It's excellent. They do a really, really good job and are very heavily involved in child protection issues around the world. You know, there are some free services out there. They're not quite as robust as those. I'm not as familiar with some of the free services, but again, there's, you know, that information is pretty easily accessible via Google, or you know, I can look into that. If somebody has a specific question, they can email me and I'll try to help them connect with the right thing.
Thank you so much. We're running out of time. I'd like to thank our speakers here, Mr. Caleb Carroll from IJM, Yusek Ruth Castello from the DTI, and Mr. Ace Azaraga from Kitchen City. Final message to all our viewers. Let's start with Ace na kayo ay legitimate na online seller. If you have any message to our viewers who are listening right now, who are interested in opening their own business, or if they're ano po ang pwede ninyong ma-advise sa kanila? Ace, I think you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi, for those who want to start an online business, don't be afraid. As long as you have a product with a good quality, and first you have to register your business, so para maging legit siya. So there are online na naman e-commerce website solution. So they will help you to put up your own online website. So don't be afraid. Take this opportunity. Right now, people are online. People are just staying at home. So let's help each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ace Azaraga from Kitchen City. And now, let's move on to Yusek Ruth Castello to talk, ano pong mensahe ninyo para sa mga nanonood sa atin ngayon, when it comes to online shopping, how to find out kung yung online seller, yung online business ba ninyo ay na inyong pinupuntahan ay legit. para maprotektahan din
Yes.
natin ang ating sarili.
Uh,
Ahead, Yusek.
Just a few tips. We strongly recommend that the consumers, the buyers, buy only on reputable sellers so that we will know where to find them. Alam natin kung paano paano tayo magko-complain at matutulungan tayo ng DTI, because I explained earlier, it takes a while. Pagka wala tayong physical address or contact number, or we don't even know the name of the seller, it will take a while for us to address the concern. So look for the registration either as a single proprietorship in DTI, the DTI website, or as a partnership or a corporation through the SEC website.
Thank you very much, Yusek Ruth Castello of the DTI. And let's hear from Mr. Caleb Carroll of IJM. If you have any message to all our viewers out there, how do they protect themselves from online scams, etc.?
Yeah, I think the message that I just want to put out there is don't be too intimidated by this stuff. I know it can be scary, but this is going to be a really important part of the global economy reopening. There are very good, legitimate merchants that need us to spend money with them, and the safest and best way to do that is via online services, right? So the caveat to that is that there is a little bit of risk that comes with that, with anything, right? Before online banking, there was check fraud, right? Like this isn't a new thing. It's just a criminal enterprise that has moved online. So be an owner of your data, be an owner of your privacy, and don't let social media apps or the apps on your phone or your computer control your data. You take control and ownership of it, and you'll have the safest experience possible and really help, the economy and businesses come out of this pandemic that's been so hard on so many of us.
Thank you very much. Very well said. Again, maraming salamat po. Thank you very much, Mr. Ace Azaraga from Kitchen City, Yusek Ruth Castello from the DTI, and from the IJM, Mr. Caleb Carroll. Thank you very much for your time. At maraming salamat din po sa lahat po ng mga nagpadala ng kanilang mga questions at nanood po sa atin ngayon. Sa totoo lang mga kapuso, ito pong pandemic na ito talaga pong naapektuhan tayong lahat, and this is the new normal. We have to embrace this. So gaya nga po ng sabi ni Mr. Carroll sa atin, we have to equip ourselves. Yes, nandyan po ang gobyerno para tulungan po tayo sa ating mga complaints. Andyan po sila para mag-imbestiga at habulin yung mga scams, yung mga perpetrators na ito. Nandyan po ang gobyerno, pero dapat din po, tulungan din po natin yung ating mga sarili. So, make sure, do your research. Andyan na naman ang information. Do your research. Google. Find out if it's a legitimate seller. Meron ba itong telephone number? Is it registered with the DTI, with the BIR? Just transact with legitimate sellers. And protect yourself as well. Try to learn the technology. Try to learn the technology, because it's never too late to learn a new thing. Diba? Protect yourself and protect your family. Share this information with everyone, especially the older generation, para lahat tayo ay magiging safe online. So online shopping will be more fun for us at wala masyadong risk. Again, maraming salamat. Thank you very much to everyone here on Zoom and those on Facebook Live. Ako po si Cara David, ang inyong kapuso. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagsubaybay at sa inyong participation dito sa webinar ng Ako Para sa Bata. Thank you! Maraming salamat po!
taguan